The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Coming up, we look at more than a few schools that are making promises they cannot keep. Plus, the warm weather is here, so it's time to blow up your bicycle tires and take a ride in one of our city's new bike lanes. But before you head out the door, there are a few biking laws you need to know. It's an important show, so stay right here because today's verdict starts right now. Welcome to today's verdict, the show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm your host and trial attorney for the next 30 minutes, David Lesch. It seems that every day we are bombarded with emails and commercials promising associate degrees in as little as 10 months. The institutions promise tuition assistance as well as job placements, great jobs, and a wonderful future. Sounds too good to be true. Well, guess what? It probably is. Earlier this year, the Attorney General's office in Minnesota launched an extensive investigation into a possible sham school that has been sadly targeting military personnel. Targeting soldiers with a GI Bill and access to other financial assistance programs, these schools not only make promises they cannot keep, but do long-standing economic harm to a person's future. Joining us in studio to give us some much-needed tips on how to avoid being taken by these sham institutions is Jane Stevens, a senior attorney with the New York Legal Assistance Group. Ms. Stevens, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Is it me, but on the subways and on the buses, I see these ads all the time, but I didn't see them before. Why am I seeing them now?
It isn't you, they are everywhere. And it isn't the first time. We had a whole wave of this in the 80s, but now that the economy is in trouble, the schools are back, eager to take advantage of federal guaranteed student loans, get people enrolled in their schools so that they can get the benefit of the federal money and then provide little or no useful education. Those ads you see in the subway are telling people that they are going to get great training, that they're going to get jobs, but they're not.
Okay. Now, what are these schools? Are they really schools? Are they teaching you anything? What's going on
They're
here?
really schools. Actually, they're authorized by the New York State Department of Education, which is a problem. There are two kinds. One gives certificates for trades, and the other gives associate degrees for not trades, but things like medical billing, medical assistance, office assistance. But none of these are actually getting people jobs.
Okay. Let's take a step back and look at this ad itself. Is the ad just a phone number? Are you supposed to walk in? I mean, I don't really pay too much attention while I'm looking around a subway, but it just basically talks about get your degree quickly, make a lot of money. What happens next if you see this? Do you call? Do you walk in? How does it usually work?
Many of the people we've talked to walk in, and they end up enrolled within the first hour that they've gotten there without having had any opportunity to read any of the terms and conditions of what they're agreeing to pay.
Okay, so let's say I walk in, and I'm looking for a quick degree, and I want to make a lot of money. When the person meets me, do they ask me my background, what I'm looking to do, how fluent am I in English? What do they go over with me?
They ask many too few questions. They're supposed to ask you if you even have a high school diploma or a GED, and if you don't, they're supposed to give you an exam to see if you can benefit from the program. And often they don't even do that because all they want is for you to sign on the dotted line.
You know, when I went to college, the college looks at your high school and they get your transcript and they make sure that you're okay to come to the school because you obviously have a high school diploma. You're telling me that these schools don't even look to see if you have a GED or any type of education?
No, and if they don't do that, we can often help people get their loans discharged because that's against the federal law.
Okay, now loans are different than financial aid, correct?
Well, the interesting thing is that the ads say financial aid, and people think that means scholarships, but actually it means loans. And all of these people are signing up for significant guaranteed student loans. They have debt that increases over many years. If they still owe that money because they don't get jobs and they can't pay, their income tax refunds can be seized to pay these loans.
Do the schools help them qualify for the
They do
loans?
indeed. The schools.
How so?
The schools actually do the paperwork and send it off
To the bank?
to the federal program.
To the federal program?
Yes.
And then the federal program sees if it qualifies you and then gives you the money so that you can go to the school and charges you.
Actually, the federal program gives the money to the
school.
These schools exist based on the existence of these federal loan programs. And we're trying to both mount a campaign against the schools and against the government programs.
Well, you would think that the federal government would be wise enough to understand what's going on here.
You would. They have limited resources, perhaps limited will. There's absolutely inadequate oversight by the federal government and the state government.
Well, I'm going to put on my other hat for a second, okay? I'm on the other hat because I want to make sure that everyone who wants to get a job is trained to get a job and can become something important, right? And have their dreams. Who are you, or who are you to prevent somebody else from going to a school and getting some much-needed training?
That's what the lobbyists for these schools say. That's exactly what they say. And if they were giving real training, it would be a wonderful thing. But instead, they're saddling people with debt. And that means that later on, they can't go to legitimate schools because they've defaulted on student loan debts. So it's a travesty because we need them to give people opportunities. They're targeting minority people, low-income people, immigrants who are desperate to better themselves, but they're not helping.
Now, tell me some of the stories that you've been hearing. Obviously, you're on the ground level.
Yes.
Are people coming into the office and giving you some feedback? What are you hearing?
I'm hearing about someone who went to one of these trade schools and said that he really wanted to learn HVAC, heating and air conditioning, and they said, well, we don't really have room in that program. Why don't you do refrigeration? And it isn't what he wanted, but it was about to start. And wouldn't you know it, he was enrolled within an hour. And then he went and he started and he wasn't learning anything and he was totally frustrated, so frustrated that he dropped out.
Is that because it's the quality of the education, too many students in a class? Why?
Often there are too many students in a class. Often the class is being taught in a language that the students do not understand. We talked to a teacher from one of these schools. She said she had a huge class and hardly anybody understood what she was saying. They spoke Chinese and Russian and Spanish and all kinds of languages that she couldn't speak.
What's the tuition usually for this type of school?
The trade schools are often, the certificate granting schools, $4,000 or $5,000. The certificate programs can be $15,000, $16,000. And if you don't get a job and you can't pay back those debts, the interest and the penalties mount. In the end, you owe $30,000 or $40,000.
And these loans are not discharged, by the way.
They can be discharged under certain circumstances.
Well,
and one of the things we really want to do for people is help them get loans discharged. If they are attending a school and it closes, they can get a closed school discharge. That happens because these schools open and close and kind of a vicious cycle. If they are enrolled in the school and they don't have a high school diploma or a GED and the school doesn't give them a test, then they may very well be eligible for a discharge as long as they took out the loan after January 1st, 1986. We're eager to talk to people in that circumstance. We believe we can help them get discharged. We've just gotten discharges for 17 people from an old beauty school that had a big branch in the Bronx. One of these women is getting back $16,000. We really want people to call us up. I'm hoping you're going to give them our phone number.
Absolutely, give it right now.
Okay.
I still have more to talk to you about.
All right,
let's get
the phone number is 212-946-0354.
All right, now let's give some tips.
Yeah.
Okay? What do you say to somebody who does want some more training? So let's not just say you don't go to any schools here. What do you say to somebody who takes a look up in the subway and said, wow, that could be me. I could make that kind of money.
The most important thing is to learn about the school before you enroll. Read what they have online. Read the terms and conditions of the contracts they want you to sign. And think about the community schools, the public schools, the nonprofit schools before you just walk into a for-profit school.
But where are we heading? Does it look like we're going to close some of these schools down? Criminal investigations? Where are we going with this?
These things have happened in the past. Many of the owners of the schools in the past were indicted. Some were sent to jail. A lot of schools were closed. That's going to happen again. There's going to be another cycle of it. We're going to try to help make that happen. We don't want to see these schools take advantage of people.
Give your phone number one more time.
212-946-0354. All
right, well, good stuff. I want you to come back and tell us how we're doing, and hopefully some of these sham schools will be closed.
Thank you.
All right. We have to take a quick break, but coming up, we keep you safe and sound in the New York City bike lane. We'll be right back.
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes. The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster.
Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Welcome back. I'm your host, David Lesch. Stay up to date with today's verdict by sending us your questions or comments through Facebook and Twitter. And by now, you know what a hashtag is, right? Well, our hashtag is BXNETVER. Summer is in full gear, and as more and more people spend time outdoors, and biking is becoming the must-do activity. New York has always been known as a bike-friendly city, but there are laws that must be followed. Let's take a look at one rule that the New York City Department of Transportation would like you to remember while riding around town.
Watch out, come on.
You jerk!
Excuse me, hey. Hey,
Jerk!
out of the way. Out of the way, you pardon me, out of the way.
Jerk!
John, if you're over the age of 12, you can't bike on the sidewalk.
I got an appointment to do, I'm late.
Don't be a jerk.
You gotta call me names. I'm doing it. I'm off the bike, I'm off the bike. I'm walking it.
It's attorney and avid cyclist Michael Feldman of Jacoby and Myers. Mr. Feldman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David.
Listen,
How
I know
are you?
you're a big biker, but you're a lawyer too, so you're going to have to wear two hats at the same time. I like the bike lanes, right?
Do you cycle?
I do, not as often as I should. I live in Manhattan, so I see the lanes all over. Do you have issues with the bike lanes at all?
I think it's a wonderful idea to get people out on cycles. I think cycling is terrific. I got started in the gym, you know, on a spin class, and it's very popular. People from the spin classes want to go outside, and I have a whole group of friends that we ride all over the metropolitan area, all over the Hudson Valley. It's a lot of fun, and it's great, and it's terrific that Mayor Bloomberg put in this bike program, but it has to be done safely.
There always seems to be, you know, a pull between motorists and bikers. You know, bikers want their share, motorists want their share. You know, it just never seems to be a happy fit for either one of them. What is the issue for the motorists with respect to the bikers?
Well,
what's going on?
I do a lot of bicycling up in the Hudson Valley, and they want cyclists from New York City to come on up, and it's beautiful. We have along the Hudson River, we have a bike trail that goes all the way up to the George Washington Bridge. There are cyclists that go from Brooklyn over the George Washington Bridge and up into Rockland County. And there's thousands of bicyclists on the weekends, and those small towns along the Hudson River police the bicyclists and the road and the vehicles very, very seriously. If you're driving a bicycle on the roads and you get stopped by a police officer, you could get a ticket that goes on your driver's license.
Things in the city, they don't take it as seriously, it doesn't seem. And there are rules that you have to follow. Right? There's turning rules. You have to use your hands in certain ways. Am I correct?
I think you have to enforce the law. I don't think that the New York City police officers are queued up to enforce those laws.
in terms of some of the disadvantages, by the way, if I can throw a few things out
Sure.
at you, I'm told that when you're making, first of all, you can't make a left-hand turn from that bike lane. You know, as you're approaching an intersection.
It's dangerous. Well, you know, the rules with the bike lanes are that if you can use a bike lane, then you must use that bike lane. But in practicality, look around. The bike lanes have trucks double parked, doing deliveries, garbage men and garbage cans in there. Pedestrians, everybody's texting and not paying attention. So we have a city that wants to have great bicycle laws, but to enforce it and follow that bike path, it's very difficult.
In terms of the maintenance itself of the roadway, especially in New York City, I think some have been complaining that the roadways are still being maintained, but the bike lane, the garbage and everything is being pushed to the right-hand side. Do you hear that at all?
Well, the bike lanes, you're usually closest to the curb.
Okay.
And it's dangerous because when parked cars are there, if somebody opens up the door, you could hit somebody or a bike could run into the side of the door. It's not designed that well. Generally, if you're riding in the street and you want to make a left-hand turn, you're allowed to be in the street if there's no bike lane there. You have to signal to make the left-hand turn, and then you proceed. But if you're in a bike lane and you want to make a left-hand turn, you have to cut across moving traffic in your direction and then go across the opposite lane. So it's not designed to really do that.
Now, in terms of you do this kind of work, in other words,
Sure.
bicycle accidents, right?
I've had a lot of those. I work with Jacoby and Myers. I'm a partner there, and we handle all types of litigation.
What type of cases do you see with respect to bicycle accidents?
Well, I recently had a bicycle messenger. This is a good story. He's driving down Broadway in the vicinity of the Marriott Hotel, and a utility vehicle runs into him. And he got very seriously hurt. And he has a bike shop where he goes to, and the owner of the bike shop likes to go to YouTube and look at the videos about bicyclists. And one day he sees this accident on the video, and he tells his patron, I have the video of your accident. Well, it turns out this utility company lied about how the accident happened. And you know, there was a tourist in the Midtown area that videotaped this whole thing, and so we have the accident. But the interesting thing is that the messenger couldn't follow the bicycle path that goes through that Midtown area. It was just blocked, and it's impossible to stay on it for any distance. So that's a real problem.
You know, shifting gears a little bit from bike lanes to the new city bike sharing. All right, a lot of people have an opinion. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan? What do you think?
I think that New York City is a very difficult place to do it. I've been in Montreal where they do have the bike sharing program, and it's amazing. I never thought that a place where it snows as much as Montreal would have a bike sharing program, but the lanes are dedicated. They actually segregate the lanes, so there's a curb that separates the bike lane from moving traffic. I was recently in San Francisco and Santa Cruz, California, where they do the same thing. In San Francisco, by Fisherman's Wharf, they have a bright green neon bike lane. Here, we have like scratchy paint, and you can't really tell where the bike lane is. In Santa Cruz, they have rubber bumpers that prevent cars and pedestrians from going into that bike lane. So other cities are very advanced in terms of it.
It doesn't seem like we're as advanced. Now, okay, you want to share a bike, okay? You go to the bike sharing program now, and I hear the key doesn't work properly. You can't dock the bike. It doesn't, you know, and what's the fine, by the way, if you don't end up getting your bike docked and somebody takes it?
If you don't lock your bike properly, I understand it's a $1,000 fine. I think the program's a great idea theoretically, but they don't provide helmets. I think helmets are very important, especially with all the vehicles that we have in New York City.
But it's not mandatory in New York?
No, there's a rule or a law that says if you're over the age of 14, you don't have to wear a helmet. And we just saw that video clip. If you're under the age of 12, you could ride on the sidewalk. But in New York City, I think it's important with all the cabs and tourists and people texting and busy people. Nobody's paying attention. Bicyclists are invisible. And when I ride my bicycle and I ride on the roads around the Hudson Valley, you have to assume that you're invisible, that the cars are not going to see you. So you should wear colorful clothing, you should wear a helmet, and you should be really aware that the car might not see you. They're not trained. Their eye is not looking for a cyclist. And the same thing holds true with motorcycles. That's why there are so many motorcycle accidents.
You know, I guess, Michael, just the best advice, though, we should just be aware and do everything you can to prevent any type of accidents on bicycles. Once again, it's always great having you. You're going to come back.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. We have to take a quick break, but coming up, the New York City Department of Transportation will give us the technical definition of a bike lane. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm your host, David Lesch. Remember that our show is here to serve you, our viewers, so don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter and tell us what topics or questions you'd like us to cover on the show. We've seen them all over the city. They are everywhere. I will give you a hint. They are usually filled with bikers. Yes, I am referring to our bike lanes, designated areas that are created for cyclists that help keep accidents from happening. Let's hear more about bike lanes from none other than the department that created them, the Department of Transportation.
I'm Hayes Lord, Bicycle Program Coordinator. We're here to talk to you today about the different types of on-street bicycle designs that is making this a world-class cycling city. The types of facilities that we are designing are based on the roadway width, the traffic volumes, the different type of vehicles that travel on the roadway, as well as the various safety features. So as you will see, we will be designing bike lanes, bike paths, and bike routes on roads that fit within our New York City Bicycle Master Plan.
My name's Preston Johnson. I'm a project manager for the bicycle program at DOT. Bike lanes are the most commonly used bicycle facility in New York City. We love to use them when we have enough width on the street. Bike lanes provide a defined place on the street. It's a safe place for cyclists to ride. Motorists will know where the bikes will be on the street, and it makes it a safer street for all street users. Putting the bike lane on the left side of the street provides protection against cyclists being doored. They're more likely to be doored from the driver's side door when the bike lane is on the right side of the street. Buffered bike lanes are also a great way to reduce traffic speeds by reducing the width of the street. That encourages a traffic calming effect that makes drivers feel like they should slow down. Here's the 5-foot width of a bike lane, and then 3-foot buffer right outside of the parking lane and the moving lane over here.
I'm Alan Ma, project manager with the DOT. So I'm here to talk about our innovative on-street Class 1 bicycle paths. Our main goals and objectives here on 9th Avenue were to provide a well-organized street and to provide safety enhancements for all users, that's cyclists, pedestrians, and yes, even motorists. The parking has been pulled away from the curb, providing space for a curbside bicycle path. The floating parking now provides a physical barrier between moving traffic and the new curbside bicycle path. So another big change you'll see is this concrete islands. More trees, more plantings, a lot more flowers, really softens a rather harsh streetscape. So with 9th Avenue being so wide, these concrete islands really narrow the roadway for pedestrians, making it safer for them to cross, as well as provides an area of refuge. As you move to the end of the block, we have these dedicated left turn bays, allowing cars to move through the intersection without any obstruction, and to mitigate the left turn conflict of vehicles going over the bicycle path, we installed these new bicycle signals. These signals are a different phase from moving traffic, allow the cyclist to move through the intersection without any interruption or any conflicts of cars.
On narrow streets, curbside lanes are a great option when there's not enough room for a standard bike lane. Here we have a green painted, high visibility bike lane that provides extra warning for drivers so that they don't park and block the bike lane. It also provides a traffic calming effect that warns motorists that this is an area where there are going to be cyclists.
My name is Ryan Respecki. I'm a project manager at the DOT in the bicycle program. We're on Thompson Street in Greenwich Village. Thompson is one of our newer Class 3 facilities. We implement a Class 3 shared lane when the street is not wide enough to accommodate a Class 1 protected path or Class 2 standard 5-foot bike lane. Class 3 route does not have a striped bicycle lane, but there are other markings. There's a bike symbol, as well as sharrows or chevrons. In addition, there is signage along the street indicating that this street is a bike route. In cases where there is curbside parking, like on Thompson, we put the markings 11 feet from the curb so that cyclists, if they follow the markings, will be safely outside the door zone. In addition, we stripe the parking lane, which further delineates the space. Class 3 shared routes provide important connections to Class 1 and Class 2 lanes. A Class 3 lane tells vehicles that cyclists will be traveling along this route and that they have a right to the space.
So with our expanding bicycle network, we've made it here today all the way from 23rd and 9th Avenue down to Grant Street and Wooster Street without leaving our bicycle facility. So here on Grant Street, we have an on-street Class 1 bicycle facility again, protected path. Similar to 9th Avenue, parking has been removed from the curb to provide room for an on-street bicycle path. So the difference between 9th Avenue and Grant Street is that Grant Street's a little narrower roadway, one lane of travel, slower speeds. So to mitigate the turn conflicts between vehicles and cyclists, we have on-street pavement markings for vehicles, which is represented here with these ELT, as well as signage. As you can see at the end of the block, we have signage for a vehicle telling them to be cautious, to yield to the cyclists. And for cyclists, we have this green paint closer to the intersection. The green paint stop, warning the cyclist that he's moving out of a safer zone and into the mixing zone, and returns into the shared markings here on the road as well. This design is all done by on-street pavement markings. It's a simpler implementation and more cost-effective.
The facilities that we are designing are encouraging more and more cyclists to jump onto the road and ride.
Well, that's all for tonight. It's time to deliberate. I'd like to thank both of our guests for joining us, and of course you for watching. Remember, if there's a legal issue or topic you would like to see on the show, email me at davidlesch@bronxnet.org. And until we see you again, always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach a verdict. We'll see you next time.